Greetings in Christ's name this morning, and happy Mother's Day to all of you, or some of you. It is good to gather together today and to honor those that we have an older song. I don't know. Yeah, the song kind of goes, if there's medals for mother, you deserve every one. I think that's true. I think that's very true. But today, as I thought about sharing the opportunity to share on Mother's Day, my thoughts went to maybe expanding. I had the opportunity to thought the Spirit would lead to maybe expand that a little bit and include the family unit, make it a little bigger than that. So we are going to start with sharing on the fifth commandment, about the fifth commandment. What is the fifth commandment? Honor thy father and thy mother. So we're going to expand on Mother's Day some, and we're going to, I titled the message, Honor Thy Parents. And as I think about honor, the Bible dictionary put it this way: esteem and respect. And this morning, as I read different things in the Bible about honoring our parents, the beauty of it is that God, in His foreknowledge, there is a chain of command, or God didn't just make us to function in a chaotic setting. That I believe this today, that God has made us parents and made us responsible and made us to function as something that can be orderly and something that has structure to it. And so I think hopefully today we'll see some of that beauty of how God designed that. So honor thy parents. And today, also, as for a springboard, I'd like to just read one verse out of Proverbs 15:33. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom." So the fear of the Lord, the reverence or the fear of the Lord is the instructions of wisdom. And before honor is humility. Before honor is humility. If you ponder that for some time, there's a lot of, that is a proverb. I love some of the proverbs. They're short, but they're very pointed, and they're a lot of truth, a lot of deep. You ponder that. Before you can truly honor, esteem, and respect someone, before you can truly honor someone, you're going to have some humility. You never can truly honor or respect someone when you are already the greatest, or everything revolves around you. Everything revolves around me. You cannot truly honor someone if you don't have some sense of humility. So the fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. I invite your attention to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20, we have the commandments being given, and we see that the beginning of the chapter says, God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, brought thee out of Egypt, brought thee out of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And then we get down to verse 12 is the one where it talks about honoring our parents. Exodus 20, verse 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. So there we have it given in Exodus. in Deuteronomy, almost where it gives the commandments again. That very verse reads like this. Deuteronomy 5:16, that verse reads like this: Honor thy father and thy mother, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, that thy days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. So there we have both times in the Old Testament where it talks about honoring our parents, and both times it mentions the fact that our days may be lengthened and our days may be prolonged. And that is interesting as we think about the promises and we take God's word literally, and we understand that, yes, this is a commandment that has some blessing blessing that follows along with it. And as an individual or as a person, I believe that as I look back on my days of childhood, you have that era, or you have that time in your life as children that you have a father that is the biggest and the strongest and is the wisest person, and that lasts for some time. And unfortunately, as we turn into our own individuals or towards adulthood, that does shift. And we would say that we go through a phase in our life where maybe, perhaps we think our parents are antiquated and don't know much and aren't well educated, or maybe aren't very high on the pedestal. And I can probably say that probably happened to my life as well. I probably wouldn't be truthful if I told you that I didn't go through a phase. I think there's some truth to that. So we in childhood we see our parents as mothers, fathers may be strong, and the role that they lead. Mothers, many a time. At home on a farm, I remember injuring or getting slightly injured, and it didn't matter if Dad was there or not. It didn't matter necessarily what happened, but if I had the opportunity, I would run as fast as I could to go find Mom, because there was just nobody that could patch up my little injuries like Mom's could. They have a certain degree of God-given intuition, or a God-given makeup that mothers can do things for children that father just, most times, I believe it holds true, most times fathers just can't quite attain to. We would say, no blood, no tears. Maybe you heard that. Maybe you heard that saying as a child, but I don't think that's necessary. The way we should try to teach our children no blood, no tears. I don't think that's necessarily it. But we think of the different roles that parents play, different roles that parents. But in all, reality is that God, when He instituted the Ten Commandments, we see the beauty of a well thought out, or a well structured. There's structure. There's beauty to it. There is instruction given how the family unit should function, and that children should have the teaching that they need to honor their father and their mother, and that is a universal commandment, and so all of us today have a responsibility. Now, unfortunately, we all understand that we live in a very broken world, and we live in a world with a lot of hurts, a lot of disappointments in life, and I just happened to have a new co-worker this week, and I didn't get to know him well at all yet, but I mentioned the fact to him that this coming weekend is Mother's Day, and if he's going to reach out to his mother. And this was his response. He said, "Nope, I'm not." He said, "She walked out of my life when I was 10 years old. I'm not going to reach out to her." And then my response was, "Well, do you know where she's at?" He said, "Well, I think she lives in Lancaster." But I didn't press him any further, but I do intend to pick it up again and have further dialogue. But that was his hurt. The hurt was too great. She walked out. The hurt was too great. He wasn't going to reach out to his mom. So today, those of us, or most of us, who have had parents that loved us, nourished us, cherished us, given us guidance, given us direction in their weaknesses, in their imperfection, in my imperfection as a parent, we still have a duty. I think we still have a duty, a God-given duty to reach out and to honor, to esteem and respect, because they have influenced our lives, they have sacrificed in their lives for us, and they have done tremendous work in our lives and have molded us and shaped us. A lot of who we are today as adults are shaped and molded by what we experienced in the past and in our childhood. And this morning, as I think about all the hurts and debauchery in life, my heart goes out to people that have experienced the heartbreak of parents that had a tough or made a call to abandon. And how would I respond the same way? How would I respond to that? So as we think about honoring our parents, we think about doing God's commandment, we think about the fifth commandment, the promise that comes with it. That doesn't necessarily mean that I do it to perfection, that I'll live to be 100 years old. I don't believe that. But if I do it in disrespect and dishonor, more than likely I'm making other choices in life that are not healthy and that are not wise and that are not beneficial to living a healthy, productive life. Is kind of how I would look at it. If I living a lifestyle that does not honor or esteem and respect the parents that God has given me, more than likely, like I said, I'm not living a life conducive to longevity and probably making choices in life that are not healthy and not well for my body or my soul as well. So we think of the honor and the respect that we as parents would like to have from our children. And this morning I realize that as a father and a mother in our home that we of course try to be biblical, to be congenial, and to be kind. But this morning I will tell you that I fall short. I don't always attain that. But this morning also, as I share on honoring parents, I am glad, or I'm thrilled with the fact that all of our children are here this morning to hear me share, and I praise God for that. And as I think about honoring our parents, those of us that are adults, those of us in maybe middle age or young adults, some of us, I'm sure, in an audience this size have experienced things in life that were not pleasant, that were maybe not biblical, and we would, as a person or an individual, could come to God or blame God and come with a lot of ifs. If mom and dad would have only done this, if mom and dad would have only done that, if mom and dad would have only seen things my way, if mom and dad would have only bought me this, if mom and dad would have only allowed me to do that, if my parents would have done this, that, and the other thing, and then I would have maybe turned into the person that they wanted me to be, and we could put, perhaps in life, we could put a lot of blame back on parents that we thought didn't treat us right, didn't respect us, the home that we were in, if this, if that, the other thing. But this morning, the truth of the fact is that as an adult, we have a responsibility, no matter what our childhood years were. If we have named the name of Christ, we have a responsibility to extend forgiveness to what has happened in the past and move on with what we can do in the present and for the future to benefit the relationship, however, in what state that relationship is in. We know that Jesus, or in the Gospels, it talks about men, or we putting our hands to the plow and looking forward and plowing forward and looking ahead and not going back and digging up and rehashing things that were dealt with. If they were properly dealt with in the past, we don't go back and hang on to those things that we feel that we have been wronged and our rights have been violated. But if they have been dealt with in the past, we move on and can still, hopefully today, in a sense and in a great, in some way, shape, or form in the Christian life, if you name the name of Christ, you can esteem and respect the father and the mother that God has placed in your life, and to be able to forgive. The Christian life is a life of forgiveness. We can't forgive others, God will not forgive us. So forgiveness is not an option. Forgiveness must be a part of the Christian life. So we think about honoring, we think about esteeming and respecting them, and we think about how we can do that and how we have done in the past. And today we have opportunity, if our mother is living, to be able to some way reach out to them and thank them or honor them for what they have done. So we don't go back and if this, that, or the other thing, if my parents would have only done this, that, and the other thing. But today we have opportunity. We move forward and honor them for their role that they had in our lives. And today also, one of the ways that we can honor or esteem or respect our parents, and some of you or most of you would know that some of you would say, well, how is it in my life? Most of you know where I worshiped as a boy, or how do I feel about where I'm at today when it comes to how would I feel about honoring my parents? I feel today that I have had a good relationship with my father and still have a good relationship with my mother. And one of the ways that I believe, I'm not talking about myself to brag but I want to make a small point here, is that in my Christian life, when I became a Christian, I would try very, very, very hard to never belittle or degrade the church or the group that I had worshiped with or went to church as a boy. I believe there is tremendous value in honoring what they stand for and how they believe and the application that they make. And I can appreciate that today. I can honor that. I can respect that. And I believe that goes a long way when we can do that. And it goes a long way when we don't allow ourselves to degrade or belittle or where we have been in the past and this, that, and the other thing, but we can honor and esteem our parents for what they have tried to do and what they stood for and what they believe is right and the application that they make. And that can go a long way in honoring those that have spoken and guided us in our lives. Let's go to the New Testament, Matthew 15. Invite your attention there. Matthew 15. There's an interesting, this is probably not necessarily the real focus of what we're going to read here, but I think there's a lesson in here for us. And we think about honoring our parents. Matthew 15, verses 1 to 9. Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Then he answered and said unto them, Why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curses father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, Whosoever shall say to his father or to his mother, It is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition. What was that? Oh, verse, now continue reading. Ye hypocrites, well did Esaias prophesy of you, saying, This people draw nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. I'd like to pull out of this is the beginning of the dialogue here. Jesus, we have the scribes and the Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem. They came to meet Jesus. They want to trick him, or again, some of the they want to see what he had to. They want to challenge him. Challenge was not washing their hands when they eat bread. And traditionally, in the Jewish history, it was acceptable or very common in that day to answer a question with a question. And that is exactly what Jesus did in verse 3. He answered and said unto them, Why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? So they had a question. The question was, the disciples are transgressing the tradition of the elders. So I would see quite a differentiation of transgression here, because the first transgression is a tradition of the elders, and the transgression that Jesus Christ is talking about is a transgression of the commandment of God. So there is quite the difference there. If you would think about it, if you formulate that in your mind. So they had an issue with the disciples eating of bread or breaking of bread without washing their hands. So, and other places in the gospel, they were worried about they were worried about the exterior of the cup and a lot of the dialogue that Jesus had with the exterior and the interior. That's a matter of the heart. But that's not necessarily what we're honing in on here. But the fact is, verses 5 and 6 is really what I would like for us to think about. Is there was a tradition, or there was a way that the Jewish community at that time had a what would you call it? A loophole, maybe, of being able to gift their possessions to the church or to their synagogue, gift their possessions. So Jesus here is saying that it is a gift by you profiteth, you honor not and honor not. So in a nutshell, it's a little hard to understand. I had to use I kind of thought I understood it. In a nutshell, if parents needed money, if parents were financially needed money, the children could excuse themselves from helping because their resources were already dedicated to God. They would gift or dedicate their resources, their land, their houses, their things to God. And that was a thing that was, I don't know how prevalent it was in Jewish society, but Jesus here, as the scribes and the Pharisees came and were talking about transgressing the tradition of the elders, Jesus challenged them with the transgression of not honoring their father or mother, and because they were gifting their possessions to the synagogue or to God, I guess was dedicated it to God, and when their parents became aged and needy and needed help, they used that as a loophole or a way it kept people from honoring their parents. And Jesus, we know, he calls ye hypocrites. And Jesus had a real concern, or a real heart concern about that idea that they were gifting or dedicating their possessions to God at the expense of taking care of their parents. Now this morning, most of us as adults are somewhere in that, or somewhere in this realm. Either we are at home with our parents under their roof, either you have recently started your own home, and maybe God has given you a family, so you're trying to decipher your gifts or how to parent. And sometimes we have made the comment that the oldest child has to train the parents how to be parents, but that's not necessarily true. But you're somewhere, or also you may be in the realm where I'm at, where our parents start to need help, and the children start making decisions for their parents, which I don't relish, but times needs to be done. Or either you are the parent receiving instruction from your children. I know an individual in this congregation that his children were trying to speak into the life of an individual here in this congregation, and they said, "Dad, if you don't listen, we'll put you in a home." So I guess sometimes they need. Well, I can see myself in that same situation in 10, 15, 20, 30 years, who knows? But there's a time when children have to give direction to parents. And but in saying all that, I believe that we still need to esteem and respect. You don't try to manipulate, and you don't try to make your decisions. How are you, when it comes to end of life or end of life care decisions for parents, if they're not able to or need help, what view are you going to take when it comes to making those decisions? And unfortunately, in what we just looked here in Matthew chapter 15, those people maybe neglected the fact that their parents might need help. And that was financially, as we're kind of looking at that this morning. But parents need help other ways as well. So my challenge, I guess, as I share this morning is that what view are you going to take when it comes to esteeming and respecting parents when they come to the part of their lives where the next generation or the following, their children start making decisions for them? Is it going to be a view? There's a couple ways. There are two main ways that you might take a view. You might take the view all in a financial. It all matters about the care, the cheapest care they get. It all matters whether there might be something left, or whether hopefully I don't have to help them at the end of life. Or hopefully today, hopefully through being Christians, we can do better than that. Hopefully the view would be taken as a biblical view, that we take our responsibility, and it's not all about whether the finances will hold out at the end or what it'll cost, but it's the idea that we take esteem and respect and try as a family, brothers and sisters, to decipher what's best for the situation that we're facing. And I know that can be somewhat devastating in families when these decisions have to be made. And hopefully you can do it in a Christ-like, loving manner. And it can be difficult. So, honoring these people, we're dedicating their finances to God, and not feeling an obligation to helping and honoring their parents when it came to the end of life, when they needed their help. It says, this people, verse 8, this people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. They had lifted up their tradition of their commandment higher than what the 10 Commandments of honor thy father and thy mother had. So they had violated. Also, in Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 to 3, it says this, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. Like I said earlier, it is a commandment. It's a first commandment with promise. Ephesians, Paul says, the first commandment with promise. A first commandment that our days, or we may be well. We do honor, we do respect, we do esteem their position, their role that they had in our lives. But all relationships, as I think about, let's expand this just a little bit more here at the end of our service this morning. What about all relationships? What about honoring? We talked about honoring our parents. What about all relationships? I invite you for closing here to 1 John chapter 4. I'd like to read a few verses here and challenge all of us when it comes to not only our relationships within the family, but all relationships, as we think about how important relationships are in our lives as a Christian person, as a person that names the name of Christ. How important are those relationships? And we're just going to look at 1 John chapter 4 at 2 verses. We're going to kind of jump in here. It talks about this verse has a lot, this chapter 4, 1 John chapter 4 has a lot to say about love and loving God. Verse 8, he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. We come towards the end of the chapter is where the two verses I want to read, verses 20 and 21. If a person say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he hath seen, how can he love God, whom he has not seen? ? And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God loveth his brother also. This morning, outside of the fact of the biblical commandment of honoring our parents for the position or the guidance and esteeming and respecting them for who they are, the Christian life of love and respect should go a lot deeper than just the 10 Commandments of that, but that we as individuals here this morning have a concern for mankind, loving those that we see. We see that if we say we love God and hate our brother or the person that we can see, we're a liar. We're not the truth. We don't confess the truth. The Christian life has brought us to a much higher standard than what the Old Testament did. So today we have the commandments, or we have the teaching, a lot clearer teaching, or a lot better, clearer teaching of loving God, loving others, and the New Testament dispensation of where it really shifted to nonconformity or non-resistance, also to love our enemies. You see the shift? You see the difference? We as New Testament Christian believers, have a tremendous respect to love and to reach out to others, to esteem and respect all people, nations, races. When we can't do that, we mar our testimonies. Honor our parents, esteem and respect them for who they are. In conclusion, I believe, as I thought about this is kind of the little motto I would like to leave with you. The word N-O, no love. If we don't have any love, no honor. No, N-O, and no love, N-O, no honor. Let us kneel for a word of prayer.